Well, great. Before we kind of kick off into the presentations, I just want to say again, thank you all for a really dive this weekend, working with us, bearing with our challenges as we were working through technical issues and such, and for coming up with and working on such really cool projects to share. On behalf of the different partners who've been kind of joining to help out with things, so ConversaCorps, Emerging Media Lab, Thaumazo, Justice Institute, yeah, just a lot of gratitude for that. And yeah, without much further ado, let's kick off into presentations. I have a little thing, but I think we're doing from independent ones. So why don't we just go around and we can start. If anyone has desire starting, do you want to start, Esther?
Yeah.
Okay, great, Esther, take it away.
Share the screen.
Yeah, if you want to share screen, that would be great. And let us know if we're too quiet or too loud. We can sort of project our way to the screen. Or you can share audio as well.
Sound levels are good.
Not sure why it's being smaller, but go ahead with that one sec.
Is it possible to zoom in on the graphic a little?
Trying to work on that, yeah. Oh, I see.
Or can you post the Figma board on chat? The link.
And if anyone knows, feel free to jump in. Oh wait, you know what? I think
Nicely
this-
done.
a little bit. Yeah, please.
Sure. So for my work, we just focus on the timeline of the Praxis system, because in the existing system, we find it's basically linear, and we think all the prices are not linear, so we tend to make it look like this. It has different branches, and we want to make the system more feasible for controllers and admin to understand the whole page of the prices. So yeah, that's basically our problem and what we want to do. And our goals and objectives. For the objectives, so the first thing we want to do is to implement AI to the existing system. What AI will do is to help us make the decision more effectively, and just help us to generate the timeline from time to time, because people might not be able to come up with all the injects at the same time. And the second thing, what I do is to enhance the usability of the interface, because for now it's just a linear process, and some buttons and icons are not that easy to understand, and some elements are not that user friendly, and we just want to make it more easier for us to use. Yeah. Okay, so for the solution, I would just share the prototype. Is it okay? So this is the interface I designed. So on the left, I didn't change the new color pattern because I think it's already perfect. I like the blue. So basically I did some small adjustments to the icons and buttons. So on the left, you can see there's the pod information. We didn't do much change to the functions of the pod information because we think it's already good enough. But we do change like these three little buttons because it makes more sense to us. We use different colors and we add the cancel button because sometimes we just don't want to save it. We just, want to change another thing. So we add the cancel button and we add a question button to make it more useful for new users. Also, it's worth mentioning, we add a back to dashboard button on the right because in the existing system, we couldn't find it. So every time we want to go back to the home page, we need to refresh the web page. It's really hard. And on the left, it's the injects. So we have different injects, and I use AI to generate the pictures of it. It's cool. And I added this little button, I would say, to indicate the type of the document we have, because we can upload videos, documents, or just pictures, and it's easier for us to use the inject. And to update timeline, we just need to send the inject, and we will see the follow-up injects like this, and we just vertically and you will find these in the subcategories of each inject. And I added another function is to reorder each inject, and you just need to click it and you can just drag it to the end of the sequence. It's a little bit delayed, but yeah, it works. So you don't have to just in the existing system, you need to. The only way you can change the order of the inject is to move it forward. So if we can just drag it, everything will come easier. Yeah, that's the changes I've made. And and so for next steps, I'm thinking, because I'm not an expert of codes or programming, so what I'm thinking how to use AI in the future or in the next step is we want to help it improve the decision-making process. We want to use it to generate some timeline options so that we can make it in a more logical way. Yeah, that's all.
Amazing. Really cool. I love how much you make it so that it's a very intuitive way to move around and sort of navigate creating the timeline on that. That's all really neat. Any questions from folks?
I think it looks really good. I like the idea of not being focused on the timeline and understanding the asymmetry of a crisis. I think being able to sort of realize that in certain ways you can bend this timeline, right? Because there's still, inherent in the nature of numbers, there's 1 through 5. And so you're going to think okay, here's the first thing. But knowing that there are a number of different events that can happen in the first section, second section, or being able to move things, I think that will be very valuable. And I imagine that there is a world where certain things will occur where inject 5 isn't happening, but because certain activities weren't referenced yet or triggered yet, you would still be able to go back to inject 2.7 because they've just gotten to that point. The pod, if you will, has just gotten to that point. I think that's good. I like what's happening here.
Thank you. Oh, there's another feature I would like to mention, is we wanted to use the new number system, because for example, the follow-up inject of number 2 is 2.1, 2.2, so it makes more sense to the user and it can be easily tracked. Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. That's
Nice. Yeah, thank you so much. Really cool. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I was wondering, what was your design process, taking it from, okay, we need to make it like non-linear into your final Figma prototype? Did you just like go straight into Figma, or did you like wireframing before?
Yeah, we did the wireframe before that, so you can see this. This is the user flow we have.
Oh, cool.
It takes
It's not
time.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because when I first saw the crisis management, I think it's definitely not linear. Everything could happen at the same time, and so I just put the first inject, and like the other 4 just happened, and I was thinking, but at the end, there's only one solution. It's either be solved or to be solved. So it just starting from 1 and like end into 1, but the flow is branching out. So that's
Great. You want to go ahead now? Yeah, it's strange on a Sunday on UBC Secure that we're this slow. Apologies for the technical challenge at all.
yeah, it's there. So I'm just found that there is actually a problem within the system. I'm just waiting for the slide to change. Okay, so based focus on one crisis simulation and generate one mutually agreed decision. And there's going to be another expert reviewing and debriefing the decision and the rationale behind it. However, the problem we found is that the expert in the debriefing session can only see the final decision and the rationale instead of the whole conversation. And a lot of insights and ideas in the conversation can be ignored after the final decisions are made. So the pain point of the software is, as I mentioned before, valuable ideas and contributions in the conversation might be lost. So we want to find a way to capture the insights that are mentioned in the decision and in the conversation, and we want to use AI to facilitate the whole debriefing session by analyzing the conversations. So the solution we have right now is that we learn to use LangChain, and then we use AI prompt as input and the chat history as input and the trigger to trigger the whole AI process to generate a series of possible decisions based on the conversation instead of only one decision made at the end. But
this, all the decisions were not shown before the decisions are made. It will always show after the whole decisions are made for people to analyze. And then the underlying AI mechanism over here is that AI will basically scan the whole conversation by analyzing each message, and then it will generate the potential decisions based on the messages. And then it will also calculate the percentage of how much conversation contributes to the decision. And this is a simple table that the AI generated based on one sample chat. And for here, we have the decision, we have the departments involved, and we have the percentage of conversation that actually contributes to the conversation, but to the decision. But in the end, there's only one decision it's gonna make. So it's basically a behind the screen representation here. And then I'm just gonna briefly show the prototype I made for this feature. So this is just the page of one crisis simulation, and it has several pods. All of those is pretty much the same as the original Praxis system. And I just basically rearranged the buttons over here so that it's easier to navigate. And this is just for fun. And you can send inject like this. But once people complete a simulation, it will show the inject like this. So we have the review report button, and we have the one unchecked report notification over here. And you can click to check the report. And over here, it has more information provided for the expert to review the whole decision and rationale. We have the whole chat history over here provided, and then the decision and rationale. But the most important part is over here, we have the whole AI generated sections that has all of the potential decisions. And then this bar indicates how much conversation actually contributes to that decision. And then if you clicked one of the decision, you can actually see more information behind how these decisions are made. For example, we have the related departments over here, and then we also have the related dialogues that contribute to this decision. Yeah, that's basically, and if we go back to the main page, we can see that it shows that the report is checked, and then the unchecked report notification disappears. And we're gonna hand to Ashley to explain the code behind the whole feature that we designed.
Okay, hello everybody. So Ashley here, and I'm going to demonstrate a skeleton about the decision-making tool that we're talking. So first of all, thank you so much for Daniel give us this opportunity to letting us to experiment how the implementation behind AI such as LangChain. So in order to demonstrate our decision-making tool, we first experimenting the Python version of LangChain, and we learned a lot of different concepts such as chains and also RAG and also vector database. They are all really new concepts to us, and we think that there are immensely potential to extend those concepts into both Praxis and AID arena. But because given limited technical experience and also time, we are only able to demonstrate the static input and the static output from using the decision tool and LangChain AI chatbot. So I'm going to briefly show what we have right here. First, we are going to save the API key. Of course, in the real life, the API key is not going to show on the final product because privacy issue. But first of all, I'm going to input chat files. It's a bit slow, but. So yes, this is a demo chat file generated from AI. Basically, the topic is about PC wildfire. So this can be a Slack channel or the debrief chat function from Praxis. So our little tool also takes in a prompt file. Okay. So this is a customized prompt file that user can input. But to summarize on the prompt, we have right here is basically generate, extract information from this chat and to generate a table that demonstrate the key points of decision made and the department that it's related to, and also the percentage. So let me generate. So this table right here is generated from LangChain AI API, and you guys can see the percentage and all the key elements that we just mentioned. And also using the chat that we just put it in, we can also put more prompts right here. So this question here is, what is the most important decision that is made in this chat? And oops, and maybe okay, I would add, what is the most important decision that is made in the chat, and also who mentioned it? And then oops, submit. Okay, boom. So this is the result also generated by the AI. So it's talking about, okay, the most important decision is the budget for the fuel for the helicopter and ability to respond to wildfire near Colombia. And also include all the key information that is extracted from chat, and the decision is made by this person. So I think this functionality, first of all, is very convenient to generate points, but also useful for analyzing the team dynamic in the chat. And this tool has a extensive potential to extend it on different areas. And also, okay, I'll let Hazel to talk about the potentials here.
Yeah, we do have one final slide for this feature because we think it is very valuable, not only that it facilitates the whole communication and debriefing session in the Praxis. We think that it also has a lot future potentials to it. So the first one is the traceability. So based on the decision made and the analysis, we can trace back to see what conversation is made for the specific decision. And then we can also identify the key contributors based on the conversation to see that which person contributes the most to the decisions. And we also think that it can also be generalized to other online chatting tools, because we feel like right now the online chatting tools can be ineffective in a way that it lacks of structures and the overview. So for example, softwares like Arena and Zoom can also implement. And that's the end of our presentation. Doesn't show, but
Nice. Nice.
Like lighting. And I
You're
think,
doing a great job with technical.
I think Tianyi wants to add a little more about what we learned.
Okay.
On the technical side.
So first I want to say I'm very proud of my team.
Yeah.
So one day ago we had little idea about how to combine OpenAI and LangChain, and it might be our first time hearing about LangChain. But after one day we come up with such a functioning project, and I want to say thank you everyone here, because without your valuable help we cannot come up with such thing. And beyond this existing project, we will also realize there's something more that we can implement. First of which is the RAG model. So currently the project, the AI project we built doesn't have such a model, so that it might lead to some accuracy issues. So after implement the RAG model, I believe it can not only generate feedback based on the knowledge of ChatGPT or the language model, it can also have an idea of our own knowledge. For example, the knowledge of Praxis knowledge base. And beyond that, we also can implement the timeline feature, which is mentioned by Hazel and Esther. And yeah, I think that's pretty much of it. And so
Yeah, thank you. Really exciting. One of the things, I mean, this is less the question piece to start, but it's so flexible, and the number of different places we're having this where you can plop in and say, here's all the discussion that happened. How does that break down? Who was contributing? Which of these decisions were important? And being able to ask questions of it like that as well. Do any other places for you all come to mind where that might be a useful tool?
There's actually a lot of ideations. That's like what I'm showing behind what we did. So we just picked, only 2 of the features that can be implemented, and there's a lot more. I would say it's like it feels valuable to me and to a lot of other softwares, and I do think that they're interconnected, and they definitely has the potential to be built in the future.
Yeah. Any
Then just like I've only been here like yesterday for a little bit today, and the amount of stuff you guys were able to accomplish in like 24, 48 hours is extremely impressive. And I want to actually tell you, because like you should be so proud of yourselves. You not only like ideated in a very like constructive and almost like toy box way where you can always pull from that toy box, but the products that you made both had like back as an MVP, and that's so hard to do, let alone in the time scale that you did. And
We lost the feed. Let me see if I can't prompt Daniel to restart.
So I
the
thought it
computer.
was, I thought it might have been me. I've been struggling with what I thought was just a latency issue in my end.
No, it looks like they've fully dropped off the call, so they're hopefully working that now.
Who is the last person that was talking? Darwin, could you tell?
I think that was Ray.
Recording in progress.
There we go.
Recording in progress.
All right, so we'll probably want to mute.
Okay, I'll just mute.
We'll see.
situation awareness is more of like the ongoing concurrent updates to these situations. Whether there's a truck filled with gasoline that suddenly came to a stop on the highway, and you're trying to rescue someone else in a different accident. So these are rolling updates. And of course, assessment is the overarching baseline prompt that you're trying to assess, such as your goal is to obviously try to rescue as many people as possible, but you do have constrained resources and how you can actually how you can optimize that given given the crisis. So what we're doing is really just running recursive loops to these AI to the inputs, and obviously you're giving the customer. So yeah, so in this case, you're giving these three parts, and obviously during the actual simulation, the assessment is going to get hidden. It's going to be discrete, and so you can obviously simply type a response to this. So you try to say, and what you're going to do is essentially, they're going to tell you that, okay, so there are no medics at the moment. So that's something that's derived from the baseline prompt, and you're giving these resources, and because this is very, very like beta, so you're going to have like very restricted like baseline, but obviously as time goes, you can further update that. You can put it into templates and such, so forth. Oh yeah, so you can continue. Okay, and then you have these ongoing responses, and you can just simply add more inputs to this. So okay, here you have responders well equipped to handle the situation. So let's try to get some ladders. Yeah, so obviously in the actual in the actual program, it is going to be further automatically evaluated with AI, giving the responses. But the general idea is to have essentially three parts. One is the baseline, which covers every single other response, and one is the ongoing response rolling situation, and the third is obviously the actual situation, the main theme of the disaster or crisis. So I'm going to use the board to draw something. So can you guys see here or something else?
I'll share that.
Basically, if you want to implement this, it is going to be very difficult to just run it like a Python script or Jupyter notebook. So you would need to have basically containerized these operations. So essentially, it is going to base on the next stack at the very bottom, and you're essentially going to have some kind of a data lake or database in the middle, and you're going to be able to stop anything from you to start. Oh. Let me show it. Yeah. Yeah, and you're going to have essentially these three processes.
You got it.
Oh.
If you can, Daniel, it might even be better at landscape rather than portrait.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, so essentially these are all going to run individually with GPT. they're gonna all have links to that. And obviously, these are run separately, so you're not gonna have these, you're able to conserve like the tokens, because obviously you don't want to research back and forth, 20,000 tokens per duration. So like the evaluations per each interaction is going to get sent to the database and or a set database. So you're able to retrieve that and like on an ongoing basis. And you could essentially add another node for AI assessment. That could basically essentially just pull whatever templates or inputs data you have from the data lake, and then you essentially just provide new curveball to the assessment tool. And obviously, because it's a container, so you can scale this very easily, and deployment would be pretty simple. And this is like, it's a very basic model, and there are obviously flaws to this, but I think this is probably the more efficient if you want to like scale up and then deploy it in any kind of environment, and you're essentially you are allowed to swap more templates and provide continuous updates as possible.
Amazing.
Well, let's say
Really cool. I've really loved the way that allows you to iterate in, and you can see how having multiple participants as they're doing their questioning, fleshing out the existence of their simulated world. It's really exciting, really.
Yeah, so any questions or? Okay, okay.
I mean, the only thing I will say, and this is a compliment, I promise. Daniel, I don't know if you remember Zork, but
Sure.
that's what it felt like. It was either that or AI Dungeon, was just getting a prompt, providing the action, getting new information, and acting on that. There's a certain simplicity and beauty in the execution, is all I will say. And I like the idea of it being containerized, scalable. And again, for me, the joy of this is the term I'll use, and I don't know if it's correct, is portability, and that it can be applied pretty much anywhere.
Yeah, and as you said, Frank, both portability and also modularity.
Yeah.
We made it in a way where it's really easy to plug new parts in or to modify and swap out elements that are there. This is great. Excellent, thanks. I just want to check to see if there's any other, because I know you all worked on so many different pieces. I want to make sure that we're not missing any of the elements that you want to share. Great.
Something. So we're still in process. Can everyone hear me on Zoom?
Yes, there was a brief moment where you were a little quiet, but once the room was yours, I heard you just fine.
So this is still very much in process. It's not exactly. Okay. Nice, thank you. Except will we be able to hear them if they respond?
I'll turn it off once.
Okay, so this is not actually working. That is the disclaimer before I start. However, the goal of this is using Reid's slides architecture to be able to pull things in live time and display them in live time in a dynamic way. I will show you that it is possible to see that this could work soon, but there are a couple of bugs. So this is the first slide. This second slide and third slide, and I believe fourth slide, wait. All of these should be pulling, this one works. They should be pulling things in live time from websites, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. So like, it works. But like,
So like that air quality index thing was being pulled
that
real
one is
time.
working. This one is not a good example. This one sometimes works. Like if you press refresh, you can actually see it. It'll come up really quickly and then it goes away. Right? So I just need to debug it a little bit to figure out like why this is happening. But I think that like it's close enough that we can see that it's a possibility. And then, so for these last two, they're also not working. I apologize. Basically, what I would expect to show right here are results from ChatGPT. And so we could basically put in there like create, you know, whatever scenario, and it's able to update itself in lifetime anytime we click refresh. So it's a really cool concept. It's not quite there. It needs a little bit of debugging, but like.
But so for example, each of those different slides has a component that can be used then to synthesize together to make that scenario.
Exactly, yes.
Amazing.
So for hypothetically, you could start here, right? And then this one, you know, like again, I think it shows really quickly. Could give you like some lifetime update, and then you solve this one, and then you move on to the next thing. And that's also giving you fresh lifetime information that's newer than the last one that you were on. And so you're having to respond like, okay, we got this update from the wildfires website, but like the police department has just put out this or whatever. So yeah, needs a little bit of debugging, but.
Very cool. I can't wait to use that. Really, really neat. I'll just swap over here. So if there's any questions folks have. Yeah, go for it, Dave.
I'm curious, Sophie, that you've got me intrigued. Is the idea that you're building scenarios that are actual real-time
That's the
crises
goal.
happening in the world?
Yes. So I was trying to pull from websites that had live data.
I've got two audio streams from you, Sophie, but they're out of sync.
I apologize, that's my bad.
It's okay.
Yeah, I was trying to pull from websites that had lifetime data. That was actually a lot harder than pulling from websites that had static data but could be updated. So I started experimenting with Wikipedia, for example, because I felt like that was kind of like a middle ground. And that was when I had the most success. So the image ones, that was from using Wikipedia. But I haven't been able to figure it out for anything that's like lifetime information. Because I did try a couple of fire websites.
I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. It feels part Praxis training or actually real-time crisis management.
Yeah.
Where you could potentially have a pipeline of a pipe into real-time crisis sources.
Yes.
And then you
I kind
could
of
have a
envision-
large audience of contributors that are actually weighing in and trying to help out from a distance.
Yes, yeah, that's exactly what it was, like part Praxis simulation, but I guess with the thought that the simulation could be based on like real-time live events, right? If you're doing some kind of practice. But
And you can see how easily, like, I mean, and I'm thinking again from say the ConversaCorps perspective, because of the way your cards can be dynamically strung together and feed dynamic data in, that whether
You're
it's
making a dashboard.
yeah, and whether it's for simulation or not, being able to have it. So it's like, okay, we're doing something that's related to New York. Let's pull up the Wikipedia New York, and that feeds in further detail level, which it can then use for simulation. And if you then were running retrieval augmented generation across the cards, you could have an encyclopedia of different cards that are relevant to a given crisis and pull the right information. Really, really cool.
yeah,
So
so
if you've essentially created like the command, like the big panel of a command center, essentially that's the goal, is what it feels like. And that's a fantastic thread to continue pulling on. Again, from a modularity and portability aspect, the idea that everybody can get key information from a site that presumably would be secured, both as an exercise or, you know, for a real world incident, being able to pull information at will and then also have a means to synthesize it and process it as it's being pulled is going to be incredibly valuable.
Very cool. Yeah, good point, Faizan, about being able to, at a later point, the importance of being able to detect fake or synthetic data that can potentially be fed in if someone has access to a system. So really, really cool.
I want to just add one thing on that especially for the Praxis side. Because it can be used with real-time data, if you've got a data set where the actual pods are influencing things with their decisions, say where to send the firefighters in a wildfire, then it's fairly easy to say, well, here was the model of a real fire and how it spread. How would that adjust if the firefighters went here or redeployed things? And because, lots of those simulations, they talked about some that were like weeks long, it could actually progress with a database like this, right? So one of the beauties of what, Sophie and Reid and Esther were trying to do was to make it so that it could be adjustable, but then always, go back to see the input as opposed to a static. No matter what the solution is, pretty much a video of an input is going, or a video of an inject is roughly going to be the same, whether that's the next one or they just slide something else in. So it like what's nice about it is it can be responsive.
Yeah.
And can change, and especially tied with some of the other tools of like, okay, sometimes things go better, sometimes worse. So yeah, that was one of the things that I really liked in that idea.
And a quick bookmark that I'll make, we won't go into in much depth, but that another element of AI that we didn't talk about this weekend is called generative adversarial networks, where you basically have one system trying to counterfeit things and another system trying to detect counterfeits. But if you added something like that to something like what Lee's talking about, where you have both the real data of how something unfolds and then the simulated data, the degree to which that could lead to a feedback loop for improving prediction around crises events is interesting. It would be worthy of research.
Yeah, because we'll always know what people did in real time after the fact.
That's right.
Like we know those decisions, so
Yeah.
It provides a cool feedback tool.
I love it. I'm going to share a couple of little just odds and ends that we worked on over the weekend as well. So I'll be a disembodied voice. And I'll see if I can get it to work. So first, we tinkered around a little bit. Before Hackathon was just doing a manually generated Praxis scenario using GenAI to make it. And then we played a little bit with what would it be like to make an API-based assistant using GPT. So these are some examples of what it might do, of being able to say, give me this kind of a scenario. And it then asks some questions so that it knows what it needs to know in order to generate a better scenario. And then it goes about making a scenario and trying to put it into the right JSON format to be able to upload to Praxis. It failed miserably at that part, but that's where you start. So that was one piece we kind of played with. We also looked at after action report generators and how you could use a custom GPT to do after action report generators. We took the FEMA template for after action reports and improvement plans and did very little other than that and a little bit of prompting and threw that in. And we thought, what's a scenario where people are working kind of long-termy on a crisis? And I just threw in the script for the first episode of Star Trek because I didn't have anything detailed from the real world to throw in there. And it presents, so you'll see here an analysis of capabilities. How did they do on various different things? Pretty good at threat identification, pretty lousy at diplomatic negotiation, and some information about how one might correct around different things. Like maybe we need some new sensors. Maybe we need to do simulation training for crisis. Some of these pieces more. So we then ran the same. Then a bit of play with decision dynamic evaluator. So riffing off of what your team was doing, taking the same text that was being used and just throwing it into something with a little bit of a rubric that was also AI generated for assessing people. And so then it does a bit of a breakdown for each person, analyzing their chat and saying, here's what they did well, here's maybe where they could use some improvement. How might they score on things like understanding of crisis management principles or leadership? because everyone was doing really well, I thought maybe we'll throw a foil into this to see how it is. So among the other people who were part of the initial chat, we added Joe Camel, who is in bold here, and who is just a gong show, constantly interjecting chaos and no value into the conversation. And sure enough, it picks up on that and says, yeah, Joe needs some improvement and is not scoring nearly as high as the other people are. 50 is still generous, but we thought it was a kind of fun way to test it. Then we thought, what's another situation where a bunch of people are doing testing, rather doing decisions, high-stake decisions with different stakeholders there, with debate and then an eventual decision. So we threw in the Council of Elrond scene from Lord of the Rings, and similarly, it was able to produce some reasonable comparative scorings between what people were doing there. The last one that I'll mention is we did a little bit of a RAG test with Sphere. So the Sphere Handbook was developed by the Red Cross and a bunch of other organizations to help in crisis management, particularly around displaced people. It has as a fair bit for that. So we used LangChain to create a piece that you can then ask questions of. So here we have sliced up the whole manual, it's about 450 pages, into a vector database. And then you'll notice here what we're asking it. Oh, it should give the query there, yeah. So here we asked, how do we get water to isolated communities? And what it does, because it's important to avoid hallucination, this is actually giving you chapter and verse from the Sphere guide of the most relevant segments that relates to that. And you can even see it does get page numbers wrong, but you'll notice that on that first one where it's saying determine how much water is required, etc., that actually is word for word what's written on the page here. So more refining to do. Probably the page numbering maybe have to do with images that were taken out in terms of how it was looking at things. But you can see how that could turn into a bank of quick guides who could help during an event that would know what the different operating procedures or principles were. So again, just some seeds for things that could be further developed. And I'll stop there. So again, thank you all so much, and we'll reach out to each of you around getting the GitHub of what you've been doing, and we'll let you know if further development is going on with those pieces. And if any of you are interested in being part of those discussions as they're happening, you would be more than welcome to participate in that. So you've made some extraordinary stuff here, and we'll also make sure people get credit for the stuff that they do that's happening. I guess just as a final wrap-up piece, I'll say again, this was a pilot kind of project. So thank you all for bearing with the grit that was there as we figured out how to do a hackathon of this kind, and online as well. Thank you all for your contributions. Darwin, you've been like a superstar of being here so much of the time, and some great contribution. Nick, likewise, you've been here giant stretches. Really enjoyed your ability to help with the user prompting and the input side on a key piece there. And yeah, that's basically it for the weekend. Each of you, I'll reach out to you to see which email address you want it for. But we're going to give you 1 month of GPT Plus, so that you can actually experiment a little bit more with the personalized GPTs, custom GPTs, assistants, any of those pieces. And feel free to reach out to us if you're playing with that and have any questions. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. And that's us. That's it.